in 8,000 lines, RiBa. A humble revision of the wonderful achievement of the late Dr. Edward Conze, now of the 21st century. By Richard Babcock. Chapter 11. Mara's Deeds. Various Deeds of Mara. Subhuti, the Lord proclaims virtues of sons and daughters of good family. Are any obstacles here which arise in such ones? The Lord, many obstacles are here, and are seen and thought of as the deeds of Mara. Subhuti, what kind of obstacles are these? The Lord, the bodhisattvas discoursing this perfection of wisdom, either understand this after a long time, or as understanding is generated, it immediately becomes disturbed. Or some write yawning, laughing and sneering, or study this with thoughts disturbed. Or write with minds on other things, not gaining in mindfulness. These may write as deriding or sneering at one another, or with distracted eyes. This writing is in mutual discord. We gain no firm footing in it, we derive no enjoyment from it, with such words these take their leave. As such thoughts derive from a source seemingly devoid of serene faith, these think, I am not predestined for perfection of wisdom, and get up and leave. Or as these merely see and think this book does not name the place they're born, does not mention their own name and clan, nor of their mother and father, nor of their family, these may decide to not listen to perfection of wisdom, and take their leave. Each time these take their leave, again and again these take to birth and death for as many eons, as they have productions of thought, and still even now, at some point during these eons these ones may make new efforts. All this, and for what reason? Bodhisattvas refusing to listen deeply to perfection of wisdom cannot go forth to spiritual dharmas, be these worldly or supramundane. The perfection of wisdom and the sutras of the disciples. In addition, some of us may or may not recognize whether or not we belong to this vehicle of the bodhisattvas, and some give up and think to abandon perfection of wisdom, this understanding beyond knowledge which nourishes this cognition of all-knowing. We might decide to look for other sutras, the understanding of which may or may not come to reveal this uniform awareness for our nourishment, this pure cognition common to beings beyond number, yet exceedingly rare to be found and understood. Indeed, as rare as a turtle which happens upon a single life-preserving float amid an infinite ocean, which ferries it upon its natural currents to a shore of rest and nourishment. Indeed, Subhuti, exceedingly rare is this. Many of us do not learn and understand perfection of wisdom, and thus presently do not want to train in both worldly and universal spiritual dharmas, nor do we avail ourselves of these. As we do not learn and understand perfection of wisdom, we cannot avail ourselves of worldly or universal spiritual dharmas. Though all possess this identical potential, some get rid of and abandon perfection of wisdom, which is the root of the comprehension of worldly and universal spiritual dharmas as these are, and instead decide to look for support in what are different branches. As a dog spurns a morsel of food offered by its master, and takes a mouthful of water from a servant instead, just so, beings recognized as implicitly related to this vehicle of bodhisattvas spurn perfection of wisdom, which is the taproot revealing cognizance of all-knowing, yet decide to look for the core, for growth, for Buddhahood, in vehicles of disciples as Sravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, which corresponds to branches, leaves and foliage. This also may be seen as done to them by Mara. Again, all beings have equal potential yet do not equally recognize concentrated right effort and mindfulness towards perfection of wisdom, and apply this, hereby nourishing cognition of all-knowing. Still most of us at one time or another get rid of, abandon, spurn, or even simply forget perfection of wisdom, and decide to study, as if superior to this, sutras by which we welcome the level of a disciple or Pratyeka Buddha which are compared to branches, leaves and foliage. A bodhisattva does not train in the same way in which a being recognized as belonging to the vehicle of a disciple or Pratyeka Buddha is trained. How does a disciple and Pratyeka Buddha train? Well, I make up my mind thus, following this teacher over here, and the knowledge I derive hereof, I in my turn teach others what I come to understand, and so one single self I have tamed, one single self I pacify, one single self I lead to final nirvana. Thus I undertake exercises and practices which are intended to bring about wholesome roots for the sake of taming myself, pacifying myself, leading myself to nirvana. Bodhisattvas train ourselves differently. On the contrary, we train ourselves thus, to benefit infinite sentient beings equally as one, in coming to realize suchness as such and indicating such to sentient beings beyond number. This process of perfection of wisdom as well as this bodhisattva-vehicle is being so indicated, shown, and proven as available to all, hereby clears the path for liberation from samsara of infinite sentience and revelation of nirvana. Also propensities allowing, karma neutralized, the eventual clearing of obstructions to the reality limit, any may become revealed to full enlightenment and advancement to parinirvana, the whole immeasurable universe of beings. With this right intention a bodhisattva engages all the exercises which bring about the wholesome root. But one boasts not regarding this, for imagine a being which, unable to see an elephant, would try to determine its color and shape. In the darkness this one would touch and examine the foot of the elephant, and decide that the color and shape of the elephant should be inferred from his foot. Is this an intelligent thing to do? Subhuti, no, Lord. The Lord, the same is true of any persons who belong to the vehicle of the bodhisattvas, who do not understand this perfection of wisdom, and ask no questions. Yet, while desirous of full enlightenment, these spurn this and prefer to look to the sutras which welcome the level of Sravakas or Pratyeka Buddhas. Also this is seen, as being done, to any one of these by Mara. If a person who desires jewels would not look for them in the great ocean, but in a puddle in a cow's footprint, and would thus in effect equate the great ocean with the water in a cow's footprint, would this one be using one's potential for intelligence wisely? Subhuti, no, Lord. The Lord, well and now, the same applies to any beings which vow to this vehicle of bodhisattvas which, though we make ourselves available to perfection of wisdom, we nevertheless cut ourselves off from continuous exposure and reference to this, without plunging or probing at all times, in all times exceedingly deeper as a means of perfection to endless, placeless, timeless wisdom. Yet, we may still prefer the sutras which welcome any level of Sravakas or Pratyeka Buddhas through advocating dwelling in